Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, with repeated lockdown, border closure due to COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain disruption, and the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, these are among some principal situations which are continuously bringing a climate of uncertainty all over the world. Those situations appear to have introduced a climate of fear among the population. And as a result, what we are witnessing today worldwide are the significant threat of the rising of nationalism. Nationalism and globalization do not function well together. And we are obviously feeling the impact of the consequences of nationalism over the economic interdependence and multilateral norms that globalization emphasizes in creating the global supply chain. These situations, Mr. Speaker, sir, which are, I repeat, the COVID-19 crisis, supply chain disruption, war, disputes, have already had a destabilizing effect on our population with disproportionate impact on the most vulnerable. It is vital, therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the budgetary interventions focused on women, on children, on individuals with disabilities, youth, older people, low-income workers, small and medium enterprise. This budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, is responding to the consequences of the present situations. In such an unprecedented uncertainty, which is leading to a severe food crisis, social and economic consequences which may precipitate over health problems like depression and anxiety, child abuse, and intimate partner violence among the vulnerable groups. This budget is an urgent and immediate response to prevent all that. Mr. Speaker, sir, even though the COVID-19 virus is still a live threat nowadays, but with availability of vaccines and better management of the disease, the world is coping rather fairly. And economies worldwide, as a result of that, economies worldwide are steadily picking up with opening of borders, ensuring the supply of essential goods. Due to supply chain challenges because of COVID-19 disease, global prices were on the rise, but food were sufficiently available to be distributed globally, as essential operations were maintained by the ingenuity, resilience, and flexibility of supply chain leaders. With Russia's invasion to Ukraine, we are trending to an exacerbation of the supply chain of goods. Despite the initial attention due to war in Ukraine, which has caused an immediate rise in energy prices, even the energy crisis and rise in energy prices still dominate the headlines. Food shortages are becoming a greater concern. As Ukraine and Russia are major world agricultural food suppliers, and because of war, this is putting lots of pressure on agricultural food supply, causing prolonged or even no distribution, which may lead to famine, and social instabilities, especially to the direct importers of Ukraine and Russia. To make matters worse, other food agricultural suppliers countries consequently are keeping their agricultural products close to home. And it is only very recently that high production countries are slowly reopening their borders post-COVID-19 recoveries. Low agricultural food production due to heat wave, reduction of export quotas on fertilizers, volatile natural gas prices, prolonged or no harvest due to conflict will certainly cause food shortages. These shortages are already felt in our country by an increase in prices. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, we rely on imports, rises in natural gas prices, supply chain disruption, climate change, a global food shortage with no quick solution, are recipes to cause food security challenges. All these causes, Mr. Speaker, sir, are way beyond the control of government. Those increases in prices on energy and food supply are very likely to cause problems. We are, in the Republic of Mauritius, lucky enough to have a political system which allows people to express their views and sometimes their grievances peacefully. I must thank the government through the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development and the Honorable Minister of Finance of taking prompt action in this budget to tackle and prevent the occurrence of food shortage in our country. I welcome all the incentives provided in this budget to boost production of food. It is urgent, and I am glad that the priority of this budget is the enhancing of food production locally. It is the job and responsibility of the government to implement all the measures quickly to curb the rise in prices and food shortages. Mr. Speaker, sir, all incentives need to be implemented to all parts of the territory of Mauritius, including Rodrigues Islands and other outer islands. It is imperative to maximize agricultural production, livestock production, enhance fishing industry throughout the Republic of Mauritius to meet adequate food supply to our people. Here, Mr. Speaker, sir, before I go any further, I have a special thought to our historical leader of the UPA party, Mr. Louis Clerc, who is still serving his island despite retiring from active politics. And he's been doing that for nearly 46 years now. As a true leader, Clerc had predicted the coming of food shortage since very long ago. And in 1976, addressing to the Rodrigues people on the issue of food security, by his famous quote, "Pas contre l'homme manger qui sortit dehors, contre l'homme manger qui sortit dans la terre, si bateau là pas vini, ou bizin continue manger." To encourage the Rodrigues people to occupy and cultivate lands. While UPA party and his leader, Clerc, were encouraging the Rodrigues people to develop l'amour pour la terre, on the other hand, Sir Gaëtan Duval au PMSD was telling the Rodrigues people that travail is degrading, going further to state, I quote, Pius crayon des mots. And Cesclair has refuted that on several occasions in saying that Pius crayon bon Dieu. Yes. PMSD has always been against the development of Rodrigues. Now we have his son with the same mentality, who is against the emancipation of the Rodrigues. He would love to see us underdeveloped so he can exploit and change all the names on public places, replacing by Xavier Duval and Gaëtan Duval everywhere. Thanks to Cesclair and OPR, who has been able to avoid l'invasion de PMSD à Rodrigues. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir, the fate of Rodrigues if we had allowed the invasion? Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir? Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir, the fate of Rodrigues if we had allowed the invasion of PMSD in Rodrigues, knowing the habit of donne boire du vin, manger boire? We have gone a long way from where PMSD left us since 1983. Thanks to the dominance of OPR party, led by Cesclair since 1976. The absence of PMSD in Rodrigues has allowed us to go through lots of empirical changes in the benefit of our people. The process and success of Rodriguesization talk by itself, thanks to the vision and mission of the OPR party, giving every Rodrigues people equal chance to empower themselves and acquiring decent and same education as any person in the Republic of Mauritius. It took us 25 years for Rodrigues to have its autonomy, status that the OPR party wanted since 1976. And every time I have the occasion, I seize it to thank late Sir Andrew Jacknut and Honorable Paul Béranger for the support in granting us this decentralized system of government. We have made a lot of progress so far. A subnational government is very important to Rodrigues because of its remoteness to mainland and of its specificity. A decentralized system of government provides the local to participate and solve their problems themselves. The core mission of OPR party had always been the fight for the development of Rodrigues and its people. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, Rodrigues is also affected by the recent and present world crisis. That is, rise in energy prices, the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, rising prices of food commodities, additional increase on freight, decreasing purchasing power are hitting us so hard, Mr. Speaker. So we appreciate the efforts of the central government in understanding the additional cost that Rodrigues must pay because of high cost on freight from Mauritius to Rodrigues. There is the Rodrigues subsidy account put in place by the central government to help equalizing prices on essential commodities and cement. And the 20% rebate on the costs of freight from Mauritius to Rodrigues, the people of Rodrigues are grateful that this measure is extended to the next coming financial year. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, with the present rise in the cost of living, The Rodrigues will be ever grateful that this measure be revised to an increase. I welcome all the schemes, the new ones, and those which have been extended to the coming financial year. However, I have representation from the people of Rodrigues that they do have some difficulty to access to some schemes put in place at the national level, especially those offered by the Development Bank of Mauritius. And another example is the home ownership scheme. The home ownership scheme seems not to be applicable for the Rodrigues candidate. I am therefore making a humble appeal to the Honourable Minister of Finance to see to it that all national schemes be extended to the whole Republic. Reform on sale by levy is a measure to eliminate inequality. However, one issue which need to address is the sale by levy of immovable properties situated in Rodrigues. It is in the disadvantage of the Rodrigues people that hearings are held in Mauritius. And I've heard the Honourable Minister, the Attorney General, yesterday stating that there is an amendment which is coming soon, and I'm appealing to him while his work on this legal provision not to forget to put a clause in the amendment so that hearings are done in Rodrigues and all publication be done in the local newspapers in Mauritius, in Rodrigues. And that will be beneficial to all Rodrigues people, and especially the relatives of those concerned to participate in that procedure. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, sir, there has been a change in the Rodrigues regional government following February last regional elections. 5 political parties, including PMSD, were allied together in the attempt to bring down the OPA party. They have used the political system, the existing political system in Rodrigues, that is the proportional system, with the complicity, the usual complicity of PMSD, for one member of which his party represents less than 1% of the population, to promote their ideology by getting into parliament, which is not compatible to the other parties, to get into parliament and to promote the ideology, I said, by way of referendum for independence. 5 parties altogether returned 51% of votes, whereas OPA alone returned 49% of votes. OPA is one of the strongest political parties of the Republic of Mauritius, compared to PMSD, qui n'a fait aucun poids. Neither in Rodrigues nor in Mauritius. That's proven by the catastrophic regional election result of PMSD in Rodrigues. The whole Republic of Mauritius now knows that PMSD has participated in the last regional election, not to make changes to improve the quality of life of Rodrigues people, but it just out of revenge toward the OPA party and the people whom we represent, OPA party. The reason is because we refuse to give the name of Plaine-Corail Airport to that of Sir Gaëtan Duval. Yes. With the occurrence of illicit drugs issues which are prevailing in certain parts of Mauritius, increasing criminality in certain parts of Mauritius, social degradation in certain parts of Mauritius, where PMSD derived most of his electorate, instead of trying to tackle this problem in his capacity as leader of opposition, as leader of PMSD, as an experienced politician, as a former senior minister, as a possible prime minister, if PMSD dared to go into general election alone. No, he has chosen to continuously divide the population of Rodrigues, to which his father is responsible for the non-inclusion of the socio-economic development of Rodrigues within Mauritius on the early days of post-independence of Mauritius. And you know why. Everybody knows why, because Sarah and Tondival were campaigning in Rodrigues for Rodrigues to vote against independence and then come to Mauritius and form part in the first post-independence government. Thanks to Sesquia, who has been able to reverse this situation. With the new regional government, a sum of 895 million rupees for development allocated to the regional government to respond to the urgent needs of the people of Rodrigues. Instead of focusing on the priorities of the population of Rodrigues, which the autonomy is all about, with the most unstable regional government Rodrigues has ever had, with a majority of one member, and one member amongst is controlled remotely by PMSD. This is in contradiction with the principle of a decentralized government. What we are doing, what they are doing, they are fighting amongst commissioners to get the biggest sum distributed to their respective commission, instead, as I've said, of working together to solve the urgent needs of the Rodrigues people. Health services, adequate water supply, employment, the problem of unemployment, access to decent housing, education, airport construction, port development must be their priority instead. Mr. Speaker, sir, the three main parties which constitute the present Rodrigues regional government, that is UPR, FPR, and PMSD, are fighting now. They are fighting among each other to hold the post of Chief Commissioner. PMSD is represented by only one member in the Regional Assembly, wanted to hold the post of Chief Commissioner for the 5 years, full term. And we know why. PMSD is claiming that they have invested money, big money, in this election. So they have to have a member to hold the post of Chief Commissioner, so that they want to control everything, to get hold of our valuable assets, so they can distribute them to their petits copains, to the disadvantage of the Rodrigues people. I wonder, in the election, who fools who in this election? It seems that the leader of PMSD is still upset. He has a representative member in the Regional Assembly, but didn't say a word on the new regional government in his speech on the debate. Not a word on Rodrigues, to which he believes to have supported him and his party. What kind of consideration is that? Once again, the agenda of MSD is to use the electorate of Rodrigues solely to win elections. It is sad to note, with the advancement of autonomy by UPR party, this new regional government is taking backward decisions. Only 4 months in office, they have already cancelled many works orders, causing loss of jobs in such difficult times. They have already messed up the housing scheme put in place by the UPA party. This scheme was beautifully crafted in a way that beneficiaries, especially the most vulnerable ones, have their houses completely built while they have the responsibility to pay back a soft loan granted to them by the commercial banks and guaranteed by the government. This weak, incompetent regional government has completely changed the scheme now. They are giving the neediest person construction materials, apparently for free, then leave them on their own to build their house. Past experience has shown that this method doesn't work, and beneficiaries will never be able to complete the construction of their house, and this method gives way to corruption, and victims will always be the beneficiaries and the most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, sir, why the central government is engaging in cleaner, greener renewable energy with 100% duty-free on electric and hybrid motor vehicles, the new regional government is doing just the opposite and preventing Rodrigues to embark on the concept of an ecological island by repealing the regulation on the ban of importing motor vehicles more than 10 years old. We all know that older vehicles consume more energy, have higher maintenance costs, with higher frequency of breakdowns, which at the end will cost a lot more to the consumers in the long run. This new government is off the hook with no long-term and sustainable plans. They are making decisions which are not in line with a national policy, thus threatening the autonomy of Rodrigues. We, the UPA party, has always worked toward the consolidation of our autonomy, toward the devolution of further responsibilities for the well-being of the local people. On the other hand, we have a new government which is working against the principle of autonomy by interfering to where they should not. They are interfering with the responsibility of the Prime Minister itself, and the Prime Minister who is responsible for interior security. They are trying to influence the administration of the Mauritius police force affected in Rodrigues, interfering with the responsibility of the office of DPP, which is an independent body. This is just not proper, Mr. Speaker. And the mission and vision of the UPA party will always be the fight for the development of Rodrigues and the people of Rodrigues. That's why we are using our experience to collaboratively work with the central government for the realization of major projects for the advance of Rodrigues. We have already undergone advanced progress with the collaboration of central government for the building up of a new runway. The project is ongoing, and it has already initiated. Yes, it is ongoing. Port development, infrastructural development in ICT sectors to attract investors and creating more jobs. And I have information, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we do have investors in the sector of ICT which are interested to go into Rodrigues to create jobs, up to 300 jobs. And our aim, the UPA party, were to develop this sector so as can absorb at least 1,500, recruit 1,500 young people so as to curb the problem of unemployment in Rodrigues. And I just hope that this new government will work in the same line so as to give our young people in Rodrigues such opportunities in this new sector, that is ICT sector. We are working collaboratively. The OPA party had worked collaboratively with the central government for the building and upgrading of the hospital infrastructure, the building of new roads, new schools, new firefighting and rescue unit, upgrading of desalination plants for more water production, investment on our human resources, support to fishermen, agricultural development, and the budget allocated to Rodrigues for development, that is the sum of 895 million rupees, plus all the national measures taken are the result of our collaboration with the central government to respond to the needs of the Rodrigues people. Mr. Speaker, sir, we will continuously working with the government of the day for the advancement of Rodrigues, not with a leader of opposition who doesn't have any executive power. And here again, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will have to thank the Honourable Minister for his leadership and statesmanship within this actual situation where there's lots of problems in the world, war, the threat of nuclear war, the threat of a third world war is possible due to instability and military instability in the world. We have coming food crisis due to war. I thank the Honourable Minister for being such a good leadership and is taking the people through all these difficult situations. And I will thank him again in the name of Rodrigues people for his inherent love given to the Rodrigues people. And the Rodrigues people are very grateful to that he is following the path of Sir Andrew Jacknat. He is giving due care and attention to the people of Rodrigues and Rodrigues Islands. So on this note, I think I'm done, and I thank you for your kind attention, Mr. Speaker. Sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.